Hello everybody, good afternoon. So today we're going to speak about women leadership, about barriers that women encounter while advising their careers and also strategies that they have developed in order to overcome those barriers. I would like to start with a quote of a woman, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who dedicated all her life to fight for women's rights in the US. And she said that women belong in all places where decisions are being made, and it shouldn't be that women are the exception. But the reality is that anno 2023, it is a fact that women are the exception in top positions where the decision making really takes place. According to the UN, in national politics, women last year still were 26% only. And if we go to Europe, these are the percentage of women among managers, among board members, and among senior executives. And definitely we need to do something to reach gender equality in top positions. And something which is important is that when we talk about gender equality, is that not all women face the same obstacles. That gender alone, it doesn't illustrate all the complexity that gender intersect with other parts of our identity. Race, religion, disabilities, sexual orientation, social economic status. So for instance, women of color will face more barriers than other women advancing their careers. So let's keep in mind when we talk about gender equality that we have to think further and the gender intersects with other parts of our identities. Before moving to the panel discussion, I would like to invite two women to share with us their experience or testimonies. The first one is Lisa Marie Cardoso. A very well-known Year 2 student of our program and a very active member of the ACE Society. Lisa.
Thank you, Christina. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Great. Thank you for having me. This is actually my second Women in Leadership event, and I'm truly thankful to be part of an event that guides, inspires, and builds future leaders. It was actually at my first Women in Leadership event that I met my now mentor, Sophia Battle, from Nike. And so I can tell you firsthand how beneficial this event is. Let me tell you a little bit about me. So yeah, I'm Lisa Marie Cardoso. I'm from sunny South Africa. I am currently the Vice President of the ACE Society. I am also a student assistant here at AMSIB. I worked in HR for 7 years, and then I moved to Amsterdam and decided to pursue my education. I am a wife and a mother to two beautiful children. And it's really difficult being me, to be honest. It takes a lot of scheduling, organization, determination. I'm constantly juggling a lot of responsibilities. I was wondering what breaking barriers meant to me. And I thought it means to challenge the status quo. So for me, it means to take risks, to believe in myself, even though I don't all the time. So I have given up a lot for my family, and so sometimes I always feel like mom guilt. I always feel like maybe I should be doing more for my family, maybe being a wife and a mom is more important. But then I remember the sacrifices that I've already made for my family, and so I choose myself. I choose to pursue my dreams. I choose to wake up every day and work hard. I choose to push myself further than I thought I could go the day before. And so all I hope is that my story inspires you each to pursue your dreams, to go for what you love, and to keep pushing the boundaries and go further than you thought you could. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's amazing to see all the energy and determination that you put in everything that you are involved with. And now I'm going to invite the woman that leads the Faculty of Economics and Management, our Dean, Ineke Bussemaker.
Thank you, Christina. Good afternoon to everyone. Very warm welcome, I was going to say, but warm is maybe not the word that we should be using in this room today. I hope that the discussions that we're having and the presentations and the panel discussion will actually help to give you a little bit of warmth. As Christina said, my name is Ineke Bussemaker. I'm the Dean of the Faculty of Business and Economics at this university. And I've not always been at this faculty. Actually, I've only moved to education 3 years ago. My career has been a career of about 35 years in banking, across 5 different banks, 5 different countries, and very many different positions. And after my last role, which was being CEO of National Microfinance Bank in Tanzania, in Africa, I came back. I was working for Rabobank, and I decided 35 years in banking is probably a little bit enough. Time for something else. And one of the things that I, more than anything else, realized in Tanzania, although I always knew it, is the importance of education. I was meeting people, I was meeting government officials in Tanzania, and I was asking them, what is your greatest challenge? And almost all of them said to me, education, and the lack thereof, and the access to education. Because, they said, and they gave me an example, it is almost impossible to explain to farmers that they should not cut the trees in order to have some wood to cook their meals, because they haven't had the education to understand the consequences. So the importance of education has always meant a lot to me, even more so coming back from Tanzania, which is when I decided I want a career change. My change was going into education and hopefully contributing to creating opportunities for students like yourselves and all students who are students at our university to be well prepared to enter into the business world, which I thoroughly have enjoyed for 35 years. When I prepared for this afternoon, I realized, talking about breaking barriers, there is one woman who maybe we should actually refer to, particularly in this building, talking about breaking barriers. I don't know how many of you know that the name of this building was changed at the beginning of this academic year. And we changed the name to, I'm just looking around if anyone knows. Yes, Connie Tenderlo. Connie Tenderlo was a Dutch lawyer and politician who has had a great impact on the economic empowerment of women. And it is the tradition of our university to name all our buildings after a person, and in particular a person who has had meaning either for the city of Amsterdam, has a contribution to the city of Amsterdam, and a contribution to the most relevant topics that are being taught in this building. So, talking about economic empowerment and Connie Tenderlo, she was a member of parliament from 46 till 56. And there were 2 laws that actually, because of her efforts, were being changed. One law was that the law that stated that women civil servants, upon their marriage, would have to stop working. And that was a law in the Netherlands until 1955. The second law, where she was instrumental to make a change, was a very old law, a doctrine, 19th century, considering married women incompetent to act in a legal sense, i.e. they could not open bank accounts, they couldn't get a loan, they couldn't enter into any legal agreement without permission of their husbands. Well, and today this building is called Connie Tenderlo House. So at this event, in the week where we celebrate International Women's Week, International Women's Day, I felt it was quite appropriate that we're doing so in the Connie Tenderlo House, and I wanted to pay a little tribute to her. Can you imagine that this law was only changed 65 years ago? Where are we today? More worrying, in some countries around the world, these laws still exist. And even more worrying, in some countries around the world, women's rights are being reversed. I'm thinking about countries like Afghanistan. I think it's absolutely horror what is happening there. Thinking about Iran, Myanmar, and we can name a few more. Women's rights should never, ever be reversed. So, kicking off with Connie Tenderlo and the importance of equal rights for women, let me tell you a little bit about my experience, my career, and the breaking barriers, which I also had to do. What has been important for me throughout my career in banking? And how can you actually break barriers without breaking yourself? Very importantly, I felt it was to be in the company of other women and have women business networks. I've always been active and actively involved in creating business networks for women in banking. I, together with 3 colleagues, started a women's network in ABN AMRO Bank at the time of the merger between ABN and AMRO, and that was in 1990, so that was a little while ago. And when I moved to Citibank, and that was in 1993, I realized that international and US banks actually had a very different approach to women and to women in the workplace. So at Citibank, they had made a real effort and they had policies in place to promote women, to have women's networks, and to make work-life balance for women a lot more manageable. Citi had a strong women's network, and I was very involved in developing leadership training for women. So it was felt that the leadership training for women managers, it was very beneficial to be involved as more senior women, as mentors, and as coaches for the women in the organization. And also when we realized that what you really want is graduate trainees entering your organization, roughly at a 50-50 balance. What you need to do is go to students at university, students even at secondary school, and talk to them about potential careers in banking. Make it appealing, make it acceptable, be a role model. Show to women that actually a career in banking is not only for men, but also for women. Very importantly to me, number 2, was having role models. At Citi, we had senior women, executive women at board level, and Citi at the time, or still is a bank which is roughly across 100 countries in the world. So the board women used to travel around, and in every country where they came, they used to invite all women employees and have a lunch session with them. And I clearly recall one of the woman board managers, Marge Magnus, she was called, she used to tell us all a story, and she said, and remember this, hopefully for the rest of your life. And what she used to tell us that when women look at job opportunities and they look at job requirements, and there may be 10 requirements for a certain position, a woman will say, sorry, let me turn it around. A man will say, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, I can do it. The rest I will learn on the job. Most women will look at 10 requirements and say, I fulfill 7 out of 10. Maybe I need to wait a little while and become more competent. She said, never, ever think that way. Same way, she said, if women are being asked to do projects, it happens often that their response will be, I'm not so sure whether I can do this. When men get asked to do a certain project, they generally say, great, I'll do it. So this sort of inbred change, difference between men and women, what can we do to change it? And I think most importantly, what we should be doing is realize that this is a pattern. So I've often repeated this story, and I've said to all women in the audience, please, when this happens to you, don't say no, or don't say, I'm not sure. Hold your breath for a minute, and then say, great, I'm interested, let's talk about it. And to all men who are hiring women, or in the future maybe hiring women, please realize that when you ask someone to do a certain task and their answer is, I'm not sure, it doesn't mean that they don't want to do it. It just means that the old pattern of saying, I'm not sure, has not stopped yet. So please be considerate and think, hey, I just need to ask a little bit more and talk about it and discuss it. For women to pursue their careers, I think you need to have your objectives. You need to be bold sometimes. You need to be curious. You need to like innovation. You need to go for innovation, and you need to go for new challenges. Have some confidence. And I know that's easier said than done. But you can tell yourself, I need to have confidence. Maybe I'm not so sure, but I'm not going to let that show. I'm going to try. And it's always okay to try. You learn from mistakes, at least if you make them once. Don't make mistakes 3 times. That is maybe a little bit too many. But once a mistake, as long as you learn from them, is a great way to progress. Sorry, I wrote it down not to make sure to overrun. I'll try not to overrun, you see. Working for organizations that value diversity, I think, is important. What I just said, when I moved from ABN AMRO to Citibank, I realized the difference between how true diversity was valued more at Citibank, more at an international organization, than at ABN AMRO at the time. I moved back to the Netherlands in 2006 and joined Rabobank. And after 10 years in London, I couldn't believe how traditional and old-fashioned Rabobank was. Fortunately, I moved into a senior position, so I said, well, I'm in a position to try and change it. So all senior women got together and tried to change the very traditional way of thinking at Rabobank. I mean, no women in the board, no, hardly any woman in any senior executive management position. So we said, we need to change this. And then we realized after a couple of months getting together and having initiatives that this wasn't working. And it wasn't working because the tone at the top, the CEO and the chairman of the board, really did not see the value of diversity in the organization. And they just made jokes all the time. And then we were a little bit upset and we said something about it. And then they said, can't you understand a little joke? We're only joking. It's not true. What you're joking about and how you joke says something about what you think and what you mean. So we all realized that maybe we needed to wait a little while for a new CEO and a new chairman of the board to really make progress in diversity in Rabobank. And actually we did. And today I'm very happy to see that Rabobank is a very different organization than the organization I joined in 2006. I just said joking is important. And I think what most of you will have experienced, or sometimes, and I have too, is the wrong jokes. And how do you react to that? Do you react to that? For years, I was trying very hard to not to react. Is that the right thing to do? Maybe, maybe not. It was hard work, and sometimes I was too vocal, and I was told I was too vocal, and not to be too vocal is not good for your career. Nevertheless, I was so happy when I moved to Tanzania and I was the CEO of a bank, because all of a sudden I could do what I wanted to do in terms of promoting women in the organization. So within the 4-year period I was there, we set up a women's network, we created leadership programs for women, we introduced and actually were able to promote many women into branch managers' positions, and I was often speaking at national events on women and women in leadership. And I made sure also that more senior women in the executive management joined before I left. And I was incredibly proud that my successor, after a little while, was a woman and still is. She is still the CEO of NMB Bank in Tanzania, and she's a Tanzanian woman. So the bank is very successful, and she's a prime example and a role model of what can be done and how an organization can be extremely successful having women in leadership. Now, we're talking a lot about women in leadership, and Christina mentioned that as well. Diversity is not just about gender diversity. To my mind, diversity is about all kinds of diversity. And we don't even need to talk about, I mean, there is so much evidence that diverse teams of people, diverse boards at companies, diverse management teams just are much better. And the quality of their decision making is so much better than homogeneous teams. And maybe I'll just say a little word about why. And if you look at a situation or a challenge, and every person in the room has similar thinking about that situation or that challenge, it won't get solved, or it only will get solved in one way, and it may not be the right way. If you look at a challenge with a diverse team, diverse in terms of gender, diverse in terms of cultural background, diverse in terms of age, diverse in terms of skills and character, I've always find it very important to have members in my team who are on the either side of the spectrum, quite rational in their thinking and their planning, but you also need very creative people, because if you only have rational people, your solution is going to be rational and you may overlook lots of opportunities. If you have only creative people, your solution may be creative, but maybe it is actually not executable. So this multi-layer of diversity, to me, has been always very important. And whenever I look at teams, I look at the team members, I always look for diversity in more than one sense. Yes, gender is one. Cultural background is a very important one. Age, and so on, and so on. So, what can we do today when we experience lack of diversity or lack of inclusion? I just wanted to have a word about that, because at our university we find it very important, and we want every student to feel at home and to feel welcome. And the last thing we want is for students to feel not included, and because they may be diverse, not part of our university. We've taken some measures. I think we all know we have student counselors, we have ombudsmen, and we still realize that we're probably not doing enough. So going forward, we're going to make sure that it starts with having the good discussion and the good dialogue. And so I hope that wherever we are, when we notice, see, observe issues of lack of diversity or lack of inclusion, we're not afraid to say, mention it either publicly or privately to one individual, to a student counselor. It has helped me a lot that I was not alone in raising issues. I've sat in rooms where sometimes I was the only woman or one of two, and we realized that around us all these jokes were being made and we weren't taken seriously. Does it help then to say, in that room, in that meeting, oh, stop, this doesn't work? Most of the time it doesn't. But what does help is afterwards, after that particular meeting, go speak to the person who's made the joke or who's made the comments. And quite often, unfortunately, they weren't even aware of the effect that their joke or their comments had on you and had on the discussion that followed in that particular room. So, in conclusion, we are past the days when we need to explain or convince others of the value of diversity and inclusion. And there's ample evidence, fortunately, that companies with diverse boards and senior management teams are better performing companies and better performing organizations. I wish us all a wonderful International Women's Day. Even in 2023, it is still relevant and it is still necessary to think about an event as International Women's Day, as it is to think about other forms of diversity and inclusion, which we all need to live in a society that we want to live in all together. So with those words, I wish you a great afternoon, a lot of great discussion, a good time, and hopefully a great time to continue at this university. And hopefully I've just given you a little food for thought to think about, what women in leadership can do, how they can achieve leadership position. Because I was going to say, not only women, men and women, you can all achieve leadership positions. And actually, mostly what I think about when I say to women is probably equally important to men. Thank you. I would like to ask José to come to the floor. José, you all know, she is the head of Department of Leadership and Governance at AMSIP. So José, the rest of the afternoon is yours.
Thank you very much, Ineke. Thank you all for being here, and I'm really glad that we are having a discussion about women in leadership, and as Ineke mentioned, having a dialogue about it. Because I think when we are engaging in dialogue with each other about diversity, things will change. Also, when you go into dialogue, you realize that people are like you. And we'll get to know about each other's dreams, needs, and backgrounds a bit more, and that will bring about change. So after the panel discussion, I hope most of you will go to the drinks and also start and continue this dialogue. And please share your background, your dreams and needs with each other, and then things will change, hopefully. Please allow me to share my story with you of how I've been supported throughout my career. I will focus mostly on my academic career or how it all started back in the day. When I finish my short introduction, I would like to invite you all to also support people in your network and give them a gentle push to bring their career forward. So keep that in mind for a little bit. Let's move back 40 years ago. I was born in Rotterdam, just a little bit south of the city. And it's known as a no-nonsense city with hardworking people. And I believe that shaped my character too. I happened to be the first one in my family going to university. And without the support of my parents, I was not able to do that. So that was my first support and a gentle push in my career. going to university really opened many doors, made friends for life, and I'm really glad for that opportunity. I also realized that being born in the Netherlands really was an advantage. I lived also abroad for 8 years, and I noticed things are not always the same. So I'm very grateful for that. It allowed me to join or go to higher education, which is not always affordable in, for example, the United States, or I think other countries around the world where it's more privileged. So I'm happy that you guys also have this experience. My university also had a really good exchange program, which allowed me to go to New Zealand for a year, which was, of course, a wonderful experience, and it also jump-started my international career. After New Zealand, I was able to go to the United States to write my thesis, and after that, I could travel to Asia and volunteer there as well as in South America. So that is also an experience that when I became a parent, I realized it must not have been easy for my parents, because communication in the early 2000s were not as good as they are today. So they definitely gave me a lot of trust and freedom in that sense that really was the start of my journey, and eventually brought me back to the Netherlands and here at AMSIP. So I'm also grateful, besides the support of my parents, also of my friends who always been in touch with me and always gave me the confidence to move forward. I also have my newest mother-in-law here, and she used to be an experienced manager, and she also helps me to discuss experiences with me, and that helps me also to move forward and breaking through barriers, like going in dialogue with people when things are not going as you would like during meetings, for example. So I'm really glad that some people of my support group are here. And going back to the start, I really like to invite everybody in the audience to think about someone that needs a gentle push also in their career. It could be applying for a position that you're maybe hesitant to do, or maybe to start a master program, or maybe approach some of the guest speakers here or the panelists during the drinks and to join their network, as that's important as well, as Ineke told you. So please have someone in mind or two people in mind that could need a gentle push to move forward. And then it will make a difference. That was my brief introduction to you, and I hope change will happen. Now I would like to go to the panelists. I'll be your moderator during the panel discussion. I would like to start with Melody. Where are you? Oh yeah, here you go. Let's see if the screen is up. And maybe you can explain a little bit about your background and your career. So please enter the stage.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hello. This is wonderful to be here, and thank you so much for inviting and your hospitality. My name is Melody Deldjou Fard. I was born in Iran, in the capital of Iran, Tehran, and the first 10 years of my life I was living in the war between Iran and Iraq. And when I was 15, my parents brought me here as a refugee to the Netherlands. And actually my first ambition in Netherlands was just finding friends, because when you are a teenager, you want to find friends. But it was not possible because I didn't understand anything of Dutch. And the schools told me, well, the schools were full, so I had to wait. In that summer, I decided, no, I'm not waiting. I'm in a kind of hurry because I want to find friends. And I started to watch television to learn myself the language. And I watched, maybe you know it, The Bold and the Beautiful, the American series, because in the Netherlands we have these subtitles in Dutch, so it was the perfect situation for me to just learn every day 30 words of these subtitles. And that's how it came that in 4 months they said, okay, she is ready to go to the normal school, not anymore to the language school. And I also learned there a lot of friends, and after that I decided to go to the art school, because I was very creative, but the language was still not very good to go to university or HBO. I went to the art school, but my art was always about women's rights, sorry, women's rights and things like war and human rights and all of the stuff what was really into my heart, and I wanted to make a change in the world by that. After my study, I came on the market to go and find a job, but I discovered that there were so many struggles for people, many people, like when you are a woman or a woman of color, it was very difficult to climb up in the society. Those years were very, very important for me. It was a struggle, but that was also when I decided just to step in, and if I want to make a change, I just have to join the place I can make a change. And in 2018, I became as a member of a political party, GroenLinks, the Greens here in the Netherlands. And since then, I'm a politician in the city of Utrecht. And also have been also board member of our national board of our party and many other positions. Well, and today I'm here to talk about the struggles and the barriers and how I just overwin it. At the moment I'm working a lot also for gender equality from the city of Utrecht, but also for things like discrimination and especially, for example, the MBO students. When they are attending to have internships, they get a lot of discrimination. And it was one of my works in the past years that we have a plan in Utrecht to help them not to face discrimination. And to give a premiere is like my next step will be about the university and HBO students, because I know I get a lot of messages from students that they have also dealing with this kind of stuff. And also many other things I'm working in Utrecht, but the base of everything what I'm doing is I want to improve my own skills as a human being and just climbing up and getting better and better at skills I have. But the other thing is I just want to make a change and make a better world, because when you come from what I told you, the environment where I was come from a war and being a refugee, starting all over when you are 15, for me is very important to just make the things happen to me to a positive thing and just inspire the world and put these little steps to make a better world. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Melody. I'd like to give the word to Martine Hafkamp, our second panelist. It's a tricky way to get on the stage.
Hi, I'm Martine Hafkamp. Well, the sign is clear. Well, I have a very boring story. I'm born and raised in Holland, and I went through university. It was completely normal that I went to university. My parents didn't want it any other way, so I had no choice actually. Yeah. After that, I started working at Aegon as an insurer in Holland. After that, I started working at Stad Rotterdam. But I learned that I'm not a very good person for a very big company because, well, I'm not the networker pure sang. So I have to, for me, it's better to be in a small company that you can, your personality gets out more. So I made the change to a private asset management company. And after that, after a few years, I thought, well, I'm here. It's always a men's world everywhere in the financial world. I think nowadays it will be a bit less. But in my days, when I started studying, it was 10 to 15% was female, and all the others were men. So I don't know it any other way. So it's hard to find out whether I'm adjusted to that, or I adjusted the other, or I made the change in another way. But in 2008, I started my own company. It's also a private asset management company. Nowadays, I have 23 persons working for me. Lots of them are men. A few of them are women. It's not because I don't want to, but well, that's a discussion we can have later on. But I also think you make better decisions when you're combined men and women. And I wanted to make a difference in the financial world, because it's all about making money, making lots of money. And I thought, well, it's about people. And when you when you do right things for your clients, then you make money as well. So it's another way of thinking, probably. And well, it's appealing to a lot of clients. I now have over 2,000 clients, and assets under management are over 900 million euros. So I did something right, but in the old days I was much too modest, and I thought, okay, well, I can do something, but others can do it better. And now I think, well, here I am, and I can do it, and I'll try to explain it to as much people as I can. And I do television, I do things on the radio, so I want to explain what we're doing and how we're doing and how it can be done differently. And I think I'll do this for a long time ahead of me, so that's it.
Thank you very much, Martine. Our next panelist is Vivien. I hope you're ready. And Vivien works at Philips, and she'll also explain her story. Yes, here you go.
All right, hope it works. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm really, really happy to be here with you. I'm working with Philips, as you already mentioned. I'm Hungarian originally. I grew up behind the Iron Curtain. It really makes me feel a little bit old, because not I'm sure that all of you knows what is an Iron Curtain. But basically, it's more into the Central Eastern European countries before the wall came down, and we actually could go to the west to see how the world is out there. And that inspired me a lot, because at 10 years old, it was the first time I could go abroad and actually see Austria, go to Vienna and see how the West lives, and actually be inspired by traveling and actually discovering the world. And I think that drove me to also where I am today. One of the other things is I found very important when I started to go to university. I was really lucky. My father was in the economic university doing an MBA. So of course I checked his books and I said, okay, maybe something I am interested. So I got a really huge support from my family as well to go into these studies. And actually I'm from finance. I had studied finance, which was not a big thing at that moment of time, especially for female students to study. And then obviously after that I said, okay, well, I would really want to make an impact in the world. Because as you study, as you travel, you see the world and you say, I want to do something really that impacts people's life, can improve people's lives. Hence I joined a big global company called Procter & Gamble. You may know from Gillette, from Aria, from Pampers. That's the biggest FMCG company in the world. I joined it in Hungary for Central Eastern Europe. And yeah, first you start small, right? As you said, I think innovation is something that is I'm very passionate about. And everything starts with innovation. So I started small with improving detergents, okay? And then, you know, as you grow in your career, and luckily large companies are really good at making policies to support women. So actually that does help you to grow within a company because you're so much supported and pushed to develop yourself as a woman. I went to Geneva, I went to the US, developed all sorts of male and female grooming products for everybody around the globe. So today, if you walk to a shelf and you buy your Gillette, or you buy your McFree, or you might buy your Venus products, that's what I designed. So and you look at it and you say, oh my God, the people, billions of people around the world buy what you have done, is really something that wants to make you proud of. And of course I moved with my husband, who's a Portuguese, so we have an internationality within the family, we speak English to each other. Then we moved to England as well, and then Philips called, and now I'm doing male grooming. So funny enough, I am doing shaving, right, for all the male people around in the world, in the room. It's a female actually designing your shavers. I can tell you, they're really great. And I'm really passionate about it. And again, a great company to support diversity and inclusion. Just in our team, the diversity level, I'm the general manager global general manager for Philips Shaving. All the general managers are from Turkey, from Egypt, from China. My manager is from South Korea, and our CEO is a female from India. So it's really passionate about actually pushing ourselves and make sure that we do reach not that 30%, but 50% above when it comes to female representation. And I'm very lucky for today to say that I am leading a €1 billion company within Philips, and I'm really, really happy for that and proud. Thank you a lot, and I think we're going to talk more.
Thank you very much. Last but not least, Samantha de Groen, who works for Bank, our final panelist. Here you go.
Thank you. I figured I'd wear a green jacket to match my name. So I'm Samantha de Groen. I'm actually born in Miami, and I was raised in Miami, but my father is Dutch, and I moved here to Amsterdam about 10 years ago. I came to do my master's at the UvA, and since then I just stayed. I really liked it, so I've been working in Amsterdam this whole time. And I guess my career path has been not super linear. I got a job right after I finished studying, but I was actually quite bored in this job. But I had heard that you should stay in a job for a longer period of time because it looks good on your CV. So I stayed there for too long, in my opinion. It was probably 2.5 years, but I really didn't know what to do next or how to, I felt like I didn't really have skills to do something other than what I was doing. But at one point I just kind of took a leap and I quit my job. I signed up for this kind of growth marketing boot camp, which at the time it was subsidized by the Dutch government, and it was for unemployed people that had finished their education but wanted to learn a new skill. So I started learning everything about digital marketing, really hard skills. So they would tell you, okay, this is Facebook, you can run ads on Facebook, this is how you set up an ad, these are the things you should look for. So really started learning a lot of hard skills. And after I completed this program, this company called Bank reached out to me on LinkedIn. And they said, hey, do you want to come for a coffee chat? So I said, okay. So I show up, I have a coffee chat with them, and it's actually the HR team sitting there with their clipboard taking notes, and it was a full-on interview. But actually, I think it was for the better because I was relaxed. I wasn't trying to be anything I wasn't. We just had an open discussion, and it went well. So I proceeded with the interviews, and then a few days later, I was sitting there again in a room with the CEO, and I thought the interview went completely wrong, but then I got hired on the spot, so I guess it went well. So that was interesting. And since then, I've been working at Bank. When I joined the company, by the way, it's an online challenger bank. It's just an app that you can download on your phone, and it's a fully mobile bank. And at the time when I joined, there was about 50 people working there, so it was quite small. And I had just finished this growth hacking bootcamp, so I was very new to the space. But because the company was small, I was given pretty big responsibilities from the start. And I think that has kind of influenced me in a both positive and negative way in my career, because obviously it's very cool to be given a lot of big responsibilities. But then I started getting major imposter syndrome, and I don't know if any of you have experienced this before, but I was like, okay, I don't know, am I doing this correctly? I have no idea. And because it's a small company and you're growing, I felt like I didn't really have people telling me, hey, you're doing this well. It was just more, we're counting on you, just deliver something and let's go. So that kind of sat in the back of my mind to the point where while I grew with Bank, I became the manager of the entire digital marketing team, but this imposter syndrome kind of grew with me. And I said, okay, maybe it's time to leave the company and actually go work somewhere else, because I just feel like I should have more, leadership or something. So I left Bank, went to another company, and well, it was very eye-opening because I realized actually I knew quite a lot, and it was interesting to see how things were done in this different company, but it also made me realize that what my strengths were and what I had been doing in the past were actually very good. So people were very impressed with the ideas I had and the way I did things. I worked there for about 2 years, and then Bank called me and they said, hey, we'd love to have you back. And I thought about it, and I agreed to go back. And I think it's been a great decision because now I've come back without the imposter syndrome. I feel way more confident in what I'm doing, and I feel comfortable to lead kind of big projects. And because you display confidence, and if you display consistency, then of course you're trusted with more big projects. So it kind of is a snowball effect. So yeah, I'm back at Bank. Couldn't be happier. It's been about a year now since I've been back, and it's awesome. So looking forward to any questions you may have about how we work and how things go. And for now, I guess, let's get started.
Okay, so these are the panelists, and very grateful that you're here and as was mentioned, in your busy schedules, because we're all women with busy jobs. So what we're going to do, we'll have questions that some of them were already sent to us through the survey, some questions we came up as organizers, but also during this panel discussion in the audience, if you have questions, we start with a few questions, but later on if you have questions, raise your hand. I would like to introduce Ian Lewis to you. He's the community project lead, and he will be running by with a microphone. And then you can actually participate in questions. I also like to mention that Ineke Bussemaker will be here also during the networking drinks afterwards, so also she's approachable as well for questions. So please raise your hand, use your voice, and take part in the discussion, yes? Because it's for you. Okay, let's get started. I hope everybody is okay and not too cold. What's the temperature in the audience? Well, feel free to make yourself a bit warmed up. First question. Yes, and I've been told to keep the microphone close. Let me start with Martine. Are you ready?
Yeah.
My first question is, which elements have influenced your career in a positive manner that helped you breaking through barriers that boosted your career?
Well, the most important is time and experience life. Because, well, I think we all have the same, that when you start working, you think, well, I'm not good enough. I was 22 when I started, and everyone was older, and I thought wiser. And you have to get used to the fact that that's not the case. So I think that we all experience the same thing. And well, when I started working at the investment division of Aegon, yeah, I was the only woman. And so when I answered the phone, they thought I was the secretary. And then my colleagues, they said, no, you can also talk to her because she knows also what to do. So they gave me the confidence for that. I think there it started, but it took me quite some time to get to where I'm now, to get really the confidence. And well, I'm now an entrepreneur, and I did that 15 years ago. And then at that time, because well, I was working at a company, I had a nice salary and bonus and everything. And then and then I wanted to start my own company, and people tried to, yeah, but you earn a lot of money. Why should you do something for yourself? Do it that way. And then I was confident enough and thought, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? And that's what I always keep in mind. What's the worst thing that can happen? Well, maybe I don't know the right answer, but then I know another answer. So in that way, you grow older and you get more life experience, and that really helps you.
Thank you. So confidence brought you further, breaking through comfort zones, and also
yeah,
the support.
Also, you can always stay in your comfort zone. When you do things you don't really enjoy, then you have a long career in the wrong way. So it's better to try something new, and it can always work out better than what you thought.
Thank you very much. Looking at the other panelists, what has been a game changer for you to break through a barrier or to move forward?
I can go. So I think for me, it's also building a network within your company. So when I first joined Bankt, for example, I was very fortunate to have worked directly with the CEO himself, and he's a very visionary, passionate man. So I've gained a lot of lessons from him. One thing he taught me is that you should always create opportunities for yourself. So you have to kind of consistently work on making sure that you're going to be in the right place at the right time. And it's not always by just putting in long hours or, feeling like you're working extra hard. It's just about being consistent and always delivering, right? So it's making mistakes is fine. Everybody makes mistakes all the time. But it's about learning from your mistakes and just being a person that other people can rely on. And I think when you have that, you kind of develop, this kind of aura that people know that they can trust you and depend on you. They know that even if you mess up, you'll learn from it and you'll fix it, or you'll ask for help if you need help because you can't do everything yourself. And that kind of builds you up to be the first person that people think of when something new comes up or when, I don't know, there's an opening for a promotion or things like that. So I think having this kind of internal mentorship within the company, it obviously doesn't have to be the CEO, but maybe someone else who's taken a similar path to you or someone else who you'd want to follow their path, I think that's pretty important.
Nice, thank you for mentioning it, that having a mentor will help you. Our students, they have all mentors, right, in year 1 and year 2. And as Lisa also mentioned, last year she met Sophia Bettel from Nike, and she actually engaged, and she is still mentoring you. So it can also be without the organization, in this case, university. So see if you can find a mentor. My mother-in-law is my mentor at the moment, which I'm very grateful for. So please see if you can find someone in your family or outside that can help you along the way. And I spoke to Sophia Bettel 2 weeks ago as well. Her advice is to start your own network. That's also possible. We have the student association here at AMSIP, but you can also start your own women network if you are starting a new company or becoming an entrepreneur. So that's some advice from behind the scenes. Let's go to another question, and I'm looking at you, Vivien. This year's UN Women's Day is centered around innovation and technology because the women are underrepresented there. So I'm curious about what needs to change to get more women at, let's say, the more tech industry. Could you maybe respond to that?
It works. Now it works. Indeed, there is a lot of bias, I guess, around that. And it starts from a very early age when we are being told that maybe men are better in mathematics and physics, so maybe language and everything else, literature, history, are more for girls, right? So from the very, very early schools and where you are today is to just forget these biases and push yourself that it's not true. Everybody can be as good or even better. Just you need to put your grit, your determination and will to do that. So that starts from that side, definitely. When you get into the world of companies, of course, networking and actually seeing role models, see how other people are doing that, and of course the mentoring programs, as you mentioned as well, can help a lot to make sure that you really break that barrier, that technology is not just for women. And you're always going to find that bias. Even myself, I mean, I am a category leader for a global company, and I had somebody sitting me down with me at Philips and said, how on earth are you going to develop a smart engineering shaver when you have no idea and you're not an engineer? I literally had somebody saying that to me. And I said, don't worry about that. I know how to manage people, and I'm going to surely find people in the company who are knowing how to do that, and we're going to do that together. So how you get over those with confidence, and this is literally just about your confidence that you're going to go out, you forget about this bias, and no matter what, with grit and determination and perseverance, you're going to go through that. And I think that confidence you can get from networks, from mentors, or from yourself as you practice more and more and you get better and better at it.
Nice, thank you very much. So back to networking, also have confidence and knowing that you can find the right crew to help you solve challenges that you may face.
Asking for help.
Nice, and asking for help. I'd like to go to Melody. You also, you're of course fighting for gender equality from a political vision. Can you maybe explain how you are tackling and how you bring people together in order to make change for women, for example?
Well, I think it's very important. It starts also, we were talking before also about how important it is that we have also like these ambassadors in every field, which is very important that the girls who are growing up know also that they can get a politician or doing every things these wonderful women are doing here. I think by having more women in the politics is already a good example for girls growing up. And in the politics is also about, my work is about making practical decisions, like having ideas, but also I need to find what is the right way to go and just fix it. For example, in gemeente Utrecht is in the top of the organization is really too white. And we wanted to change that, and we just can't talk about it and ask to change it, but we made a new law in Utrecht that they have to be in 5 years. It's kind of a quota, but we call it streefcijfers. They are going to double their the position of people of color in the top of the organization. And we said also, it's also important when you have people in your organization, just also coaching them and giving them these coaching trajects to can be climbing up. So I think it's very important when you are working in a politics to have these practical ideas how we can just change a system and make it easier for women and people of color to climb up. And that's what I'm on a daily basis doing also.
Nice, thank you very much. And I'm looking at the audience because there might be already questions from the audience that relating to the questions we just had. I see in the front.
Good, I already see some questions coming up down here. We've been inspired.
Hi, ladies. My question is, what benefits have you received from your leadership experiences that you've carried through as you lead other people?
Okay, who would like to answer?
I can answer.
Samantha?
So I think when you become a leader, there's a certain mindset change that needs to come with that too, because you go from just kind of being in your own individual track to now being in a position where other people look up to you. And I think it's important to really realize what your own personal strengths are in order to do that. So I was lucky enough to have done a couple of strength finder kind of tests in the few different companies I worked in. And me personally, I realized I'm very future oriented and I have a lot of empathy. And at first I was like, okay, whatever. But then when you kind of start listening to what other strengths different people have, you realize that they're completely different than your own strengths. And then that kind of goes back to the point Ineke made before, where it's actually much better if you're surrounded with people with different strengths. And it doesn't mean that you're necessarily bad at something. It just means I'm good at this and Martina's better at this. So together we can collaborate and work better. And I think that is a key part of leadership as well, is knowing what you're good at and what your contributions can be, and accepting what you're not great at and how you can let someone else, take part of something that they're better at.
Nice, clear.
Maybe you can add to that. When you become in a leadership position, finally, the rules are not set necessarily for you, but you are setting the rules. And you can also change the vision of a company. Oh, sorry. So basically, you are changing the culture, you're influencing the culture and what we think is the best for a diverse and inclusive culture. Also how you develop people. Then you're going to have the chance to actually pool all those female talents together to actually help them to grow, help them to get the confidence to be really truly who they are with their strengths, with their developments, where they would like to do. And you become a role model because people are going to look up to you to say, hey, she's already there, so it's possible. And maybe then it's possible for me as well when I'm coming into this company.
Nice, thank you very much. Yeah? So embracing diversity, knowing yourself, your strengths, and those challenges that you have that maybe might be filled with others in your team, and also setting the stage, influencing the culture, and giving the people the gentle push to break through their personal ceilings. If that's summarizing it. So did it answer your question? Nice. There was another question, one of your neighbors. So Ian, if you could please bring the microphone.
Thank you. I have a question for all the panelists. If you could give any advice to your 20-year-old self, what would it be?
Well, my first advice is be true to yourself and don't think about what other people think, but you have to find out what you want to do, and then, that's the most important thing. So be true to yourself. That's what I always try to do. Only it took me some years because you're in a big company and there are your colleagues, and it's always done that way. And maybe it's not your way, but you have to get confident, and then you can do it your way, and that's the best way for you.
And I think if I relate to 20-year-old students or my 20-year-old self, you're still in a process getting to know yourself, right? What you want, who you are, and don't be afraid to challenge that as well, because you find out, your friends know, your family knows, and you try things out and you can discover yourself. So don't feel the urge to know already, but be not afraid to show yourself, yeah? Okay, another question from the audience. Yes, in the back there. Thank you for standing up.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Xiaoli. I'm from Wittenberg University of Applied Sciences. And we headquartered in Apeldoorn, and we have also a small campus in Amsterdam. And our students are all international students and from different parts of the world. And my question is, do you think it is more challenging or there are more barriers for the international women here in the Netherlands who are looking for opportunities or advancing to leadership in their career here? Like gender difference or cultural difference or age or languages? Do you think these are more challenging for them? And what kind of advice would you like to give to them? Thank you very much.
Yes, the answer is yes. I think it's also has been said here about the intersectionality of this subject, because when you are a woman, and then when you are a woman of color or a woman from abroad, or maybe you are LGBT person, and so it's all are like barriers what will put someone like steps behind. And that's the truth. But what I can give you as advice, it will be probably just go for it, and just don't stop, and just if you have a vision in your mind and a mission, just go for it, and also see the barriers as something you can overwin, and you get stronger by that. I think why I came far was because I just saw the barriers as my challenges, like a top sporter, you know, just going and then training your muscles to get further and further. And if you see it like that, then it becomes sometimes also even fun just to go and make strategies how you get further. And don't be afraid also, and just do it. When I came into politics, for example, I did study art. I haven't had never a meeting. I didn't know what is emotion. But I just said, well, I have a plan in my head. I want to make a change. I don't know anything about politic instruments, but I know what is going on in the society, and I want to make a change. That was what I said to the people who when I went as a candidate. And then I came there, and it was like, okay, now I have to do it. So just find people who can help you, and just learn the instruments you need to go to your goals. So it's always like, how can you overwin the barriers? It doesn't matter that there are barriers, because they will be always for everybody. And just go and just, go through the challenges. Yeah, and have fun with it sometimes also.
Can I add something to that? Because I think that's really cool, but I think also on the flip side, there are people, if you're not like a barrier pusher yourself, there are people that are pushing barriers for you, and I think you just have to try to find where these people are and what they've already created for you. So, for example, like these initiatives, like you've already done the initiative, so now other people can benefit from this, right? For example, at Bank, we are very diverse, and that's something that our CEO believes in. So when we hire people, we do it very data-driven. We just, there's a few set of criteria we look for, and we don't care what kind of person you are, as long as you can get the job done. So I think if you look for these types of situations and you just put yourself in situations where you can succeed, then you can also find a way to get there, if you're not into the breaking barrier part yourself. But otherwise, you should break the barriers for sure.
I see Ian would like to say something.
I was going to, this is a question, we have a question from a student who sent in a question online, and I think it follows on from what you're just discussing there, which is support within the organization. And this question relates to maybe more institutional support or other support. And maybe the student is here themselves, Mariska Spansen. Here, maybe? Yes, would you like to ask the question yourself?
Okay, Okay. I asked this question because I'm writing my thesis about how the organization I work for can increase female representation in board level positions. And the question is, should an organization have gender quotas for leadership positions to increase female representation?
Maybe I can go with that. Obviously, especially large companies, they do have a quota for female representation and in some cases other diversity measures. So let it be LGBT measures or in America more the black community groups. So definitely there is one. Now the good news is, I don't know if you're aware of that, from 2026, the EU Parliament just voted, I think in July, that on non-executive level, 40% of female in the company should be represented and 30% at the director level. Now, you can, obviously, as many companies need to reach that level by 2026, which is absolutely a great news for all of us. But again, diversity should not stop at the female level, right? Diversity is not just about female or male. There is a lot of type of diversity that we obviously need to make sure that we take into account.
Can I answer that question also? Because I told before also about the gemeente Utrecht and how we wanted also some kind of quota. I think really it's important to have quota. So if you ask me, yes. But it's not the only thing, because I see it also like in politics. We say we need more women in the politics, and we try to, with every campaign, to get more women. But we have also to be able to change the system to make it more inclusive for everybody. I mean, then women come and then they get struggling and they go away. Then we are far away about, to what we wanted. So not only quota, but also how we can make to change the system. That's important.
Yeah, so sustainable change is what we're looking for. Think about availability of daycare, also affordability of daycare or after-school care, for example. Companies that are being supportive, flexible. Things have changed after Corona. Working from home is easier now. So I think that's what you're referring to, right? So that system needs to change, and also the support of everybody in your family and in your surroundings, and you can help each other out, and to all take part of society. Let me see. I know, Ian, you have a very good question still left from the survey, so maybe you can ask that, or we can see
a couple,
in the
but maybe we have a couple of questions up here. It's great.
So in looking at HRM within a company, what would you recommend, because companies have values, people have values, and you want them to match, because people are overall happier when values match with the company's values. But you also want to bring diversity to a company. So you already shortly said about you have criteria in order for people to hire within a company, but what are your tips and what would you recommend to look at when hiring new people within a company?
So how to attract more diverse people to your company is your question.
Yeah, I can. So following up on that, so we do have a set of criteria that we look at, right? So we have certain cultural values that we would like the employees working at Bank to also have. But we also have, for example, personality tests that we ask every candidate to take, and that we do that so that there's no right or wrong answer, obviously, but we do that so that we can try to match you into a best performing team, because it's not just the way about your values, but it's also how do you think, how do you execute things. It's going back a bit to what Ineke said, are you more analytical, are you more creative, or so you always need to have this type of diversity as well, and these people can be very different in the way that they work and in the way that they see things, but at the end of the day, your core value is to move forward, it's to make a difference, and those are core values of Bank. So as long as you want to make a difference, then it fits. How you make a difference, that can be different, and so that's where you have room to be more diverse.
I remember when we had met earlier today and we had a discussion also about the vacancy tax can make a difference, and I know you said something about how to attract more females to Philips, especially in engineering positions. So can you maybe
add to that?
It is very difficult, right? So we did, I was just telling the story, and we were chatting, that we really don't have female applicants when it comes to real tech engineering jobs. And one of the key barriers we figured out is literally just how we write the text of the job description. So when it goes out to LinkedIn and you read it, female would be like, no, maybe it's not for me. So we literally had to rewrite it and check and test to see what job description we should phrase to make it for female applicants more appealing. So we did that exercise, and we actually now we have a good 30% applicants from female background for the engineering jobs, which is pretty incredible. And actually, even on any kind of positions, we make sure that we always have a female and male applicant, both. So it's not just males, but we have a good diversity interviewees that we discuss too, because we want to give the opportunity for equally for all genders, and obviously for our other diverse groups.
Thank you for adding that. More questions from the audience. We're approaching the end of our Q&A session.
We have one here, yes.
I have a question about the glass ceiling. A couple years ago, I came across this blog. They were talking about the glass ceiling, which is a barrier that women or other minorities are facing outside their profession and the knowledge they have. So the terms as in breaking barriers and pushing them back, do you think that we are breaking this glass ceiling now, or that we are pushing it back for the next generation to, be stuck again? So that's the question for the panelists.
Great question. Who would like to answer?
So the question is if we are breaking the glass barrier or pushing it back. That's a good question. I think we should just take the responsibility to break the glass because really this is like 2023 and we are still talking about this stuff. And if you ask me, it's like a time to take action because exactly of what you are saying, because I don't want the next generation have to deal with the same stuff we have been dealing with or people before us. So taking action is very important, and it started also like here when we talk about this stuff and learn from each other and having this network, just exchange our experiences. Let's break the glass, please, this year, as soon as possible.
Maybe other panelists would like to add, Martine?
Yeah, well, I didn't experience any glass ceiling. I think it's also a mindset at a certain point. You don't have to be pushed back because of the thought that it might be there. You have to be confident, and well, when you act just the way you are, it's fine. So I didn't experience any of it.
So maybe it has been broken already. That's good news.
Oh, probably not everywhere, but it's also always about your own mindset.
Okay, thank you. I think we have room for a final question.
So we have so many questions
maybe
going on.
More. Let's do it quick. Can you make it over there really quickly?
I have one here already, so I'm sorry.
Well, let's do all three then.
Hello there. I have one question. I've worked in recruitment, and there I heard and also saw that sometimes a recruiter chooses for a female candidate over a male, even though on paper the male candidate would have been maybe a better candidate for the job. Some people say that is good because you have to start somewhere in order to get the more female people in the company, and others say that's unfair, and then it becomes a diversity hire. What is your take on it?
Maybe I can go for that. Obviously, we do make sure that we have the right candidates for every role applied. We will not choose a female candidate if it's worse than the male candidate. Okay, so you need to be competent in what you do. We're not going to just promote you or hire you because you are a female candidate. So that's not how bias works. You really need to make sure that we don't have a bias, so we evaluate everybody in the same way with the same questions, the same lens, as well as on promotions or in hiring, it doesn't really matter. But exactly to avoid that discussion later on to say, you got promoted because you're a female, that is not the right way to do, because that's going to create a negative impact even within the company. So that's not a long-term strategy we should follow. We need to make sure that our female leaders are competent and trained and has the capability to, as just as any other male candidate, to take on the right roles. And it's on us to give them the right training programs, give them the right coaches, the right mentors, the right anything projects for them to grow. And that's why we are there, to make sure that we give them those opportunities.
So if I also summarize of what's been said earlier, it's about attracting women for certain positions that are maybe in the past more attracting men, using the right language, also being aware that women think differently, as Ineke Bussemaker said, that they try to tick all the boxes before they apply, so be aware of that. Maybe pushing women and making them aware and grow their confidence to move up and tell them that they are ready, they can do it, opposed to that there will be discrimination or positive discrimination. So I hope it answered your question. I see Ian is already there. Thank you, Ian.
Yes, we
You're
have
fast.
a lot of questions here. I'm going to give it.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Katlina. So earlier we were looking at the whole idea of quotas, but my question is more directed towards an earlier stage in life. What do you think we can do to encourage females, especially in younger ages, when they're still in kindergarten or in elementary school, to strive from a younger age already more into tech positions, finance positions, leadership positions? What can we do at a younger age instead of only later? Yeah.
Great question as well. Can I ask Samantha? Can I ask you?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Answer.
I think it's the responsibility of all of us to do that. I think it's the way that we speak to people. It's the way, the types of topics that we talk about. It's about bringing awareness. I think a lot of the times we see probably less females in tech because they're afraid, because they don't know, they feel like it's a topic that they're not comfortable with. So I think if you kind of bring more awareness to this topic, then it will make it more accessible and it will make it less weird that you're doing something out of the ordinary, because it'll just be ordinary. So I think it's all of us to, number one, be aware that it's a problem, number two, educate yourself and to just know that there's more out there, and then pass it on, because not other people might also not know this, right? So being here and then you speaking to your friends and then just kind of getting the conversation going, I think that's how you raise more awareness, and that's how you make things more accessible for people.
And I'm a mom of 2 beautiful daughters of 6 and 11. And I take them to NEMO, the science museum. I personally like mathematics, so I hopefully that passes on as well. So help your cousins, nephews, nieces, and inspire that to them as well. I know IQM is not the favorite course of most students here, but hopefully in the future you realize it's a very useful course. Looking at the time, did everybody had a chance to ask a question?
No, there are a couple of more people, and there's
Yes?
still more coming up. So I
Well,
don't know
if everybody's okay, if running over 5 minutes, then we can tackle those questions. Is that okay? But keep yourself warm in the meantime. Move a little bit, yes? And then drinks are coming up.
Hi, my name is Fokke. Nice to meet you. As I understood from the introduction, there are several so-called spectrums to diversity. Age, gender, sex, color. So how do you define for each specific institution or organization which spectrum suits best?
I don't think you're ever going to be able to make, like, I need 10% Indian, 5% Chinese, and I don't know. So this level of details we're never going to go into. What you need to do is to treat everybody when you are choosing equally, no matter the background, no matter the gender, the nationality, whatever that is to pick the right person without bias. And that person can be anything, however it looks, however he speaks, however he came from. Just keep your bias away and choose the right person. So we don't go into the direction of making percentages of everything, because it's impossible after a certain moment. Just in my team, I have 15 different nationality. It's a team of 20. So we really try because it's just happened like that. It's not because we made any quotas. It just happens like that.
Maybe may I add to that? How do you make sure the needs of people with different backgrounds are met? Because sometimes issues are very sensitive. So how do you start that dialogue or being open to changes? Let's say people have certain religions that they want to attend to during their work, or have kids picking up their children during work times. or anything else that could be sensitive. So how do you make sure that you keep people with different needs than your own?
Yeah, I would like to answer that. I think it's very important. I have friends who are Muslims, for example, and they always want to do the traditional praying, and there is sometimes no place for them to go. And I think it's really crazy because we have so many people in our country who are Muslims, so it's important to have for every group of people things they need. That makes it more inclusive for them. But also when I see how it is in politics, I think there is also sometimes not only about the things you said, gender and sex and all, the color, but also people who are maybe more introvert and need to think about stuff a little bit longer. This is also diversity to me. I think if you think about democracy, every person has a right to just be active in our democratic system. So it's very important also in political parties to have a space when we have a meeting that everybody can be heard. Not just the one who goes like this at the first moment, but just give everybody like the time to think about it and just hear what they are saying. So these things are also very important.
Thank you, I agree. Final question?
Yes, I'm going to bring it to a question that was sent in, because we also had people send in some questions beforehand, and I think it will close the circle on where we are this evening. I'm sure if you have more questions, I'm sure the panelists will be delighted to answer them during the networking moment afterwards. But this question comes from Diana de Vries, who was one of our members last year at the panel. So good to have you here again. Do you remember your question? I'll ask it for you, because I think it's a fascinating one for all of us here in the school. The question is, if you were to go back to university now, or if you were back at university, would your approach to classes, to studying grades, or to the other students, or the professors be different?
Oh, very much. Yeah, that's not, well, when you start university, then it's just after high school, and then you're just learning by doing, or it's just, it's all learning, and it's all about books, and now it would be far more interactive. And also, I was very, more or less shy at that age, and now I know that you don't have to be shy at all. If it's not who's the loudest, it's also on that board. It's not about being the loudest, it's about getting your voice. But I wasn't used to it when I came from high school, so I would approach it very differently. I also would approach my first jobs very differently, because I already told in the beginning, then I was too modest. I thought everyone knew better. And that's just not the case. But, well, you have to learn that. And it's life experience. In my case, at least that was. I wasn't too sure about myself. And, well, so yes, I would approach it very, very differently now.
I think there's also like a difference when you're learning something before you have real context to it. So I think when I was a student, I'm like, okay, I'm learning stuff, and then you go into the business world and you're like, wow, everything I learned, I don't know, it doesn't seem relevant anymore, although of course I think the pillars are relevant, but I felt like I was missing kind of more hands-on stuff, which you learn on the job. And actually I love learning, so I believe in continuous education, so I'm often taking courses online in topics that interest me and that are also relevant for my work. So I think it's just a process, you have to keep doing it.
Yeah, and also when we were in university, it was also, then you had CEOs who came and gave presentations, and we were just there sitting, okay, next presentation, okay. And now you see what whatever they made, and now I would appreciate it much, much more. And in the old days, it was just like, okay, next.
So it all makes sense later on. Yeah. So keep going, don't give up your studies. And with that, I would like to end the panel discussion.